Hello, my name is Dr. Brian Raid, and I'm a naturopathic doctor. And this is a video about a really quick thing, inexpensive thing that you can do to check to see if your living environment might be more prone to mold overgrowth. And the thing that you can do quickly and fairly cheaply is to determine what the humidity level is in your living quarters. And that could be where you're spending most of your time in your home. It could be in your basement, but basically anywhere in your house, apartment, wherever it is that you happen to live. Checking to see what the humidity level is something worth considering, because mold is able to grow in environments that, to my understanding, have a humidity of at least 50%. If it's higher than 50%, then there's going to be more risk of mold growth. Some of the mold experts out there, they talk about trying to keep your humidity level down at 40% or maybe lower. So say somewhere between the 40 to 50% mark or lower would be kind of your sweet spot. Of course, you have to bear in mind that if your humidity gets too low, then it can dry out sinuses and cause nosebleeds and maybe other issues. So there's a bit of a balancing act, but generally speaking, trying to keep your humidity level lower than 50%, to my understanding, is something worth considering. So to measure the humidity level in your home, you can buy a little device. It's called the hygrometer. So not a hydrometer. I thought that's what it was called for some time, and then I learned that that's a totally different thing. Hygrometer is what you want to look for. And basically a hygrometer, you can purchase it at any store that sells, like, a large store that sells tools and whatnot, like a hardware store, as I believe they're called. You could certainly buy them online, I'm sure, as you can buy anything online these days. And they're pretty inexpensive. They're around $10 or so, maybe a little bit less. Some of them are fancy and have a thermometer built into them as well. So you can get a 2-for-1 hygrometer thermometer, or a thermometer hygrometer, depending on the way you want to say it. And with the hygrometer, you basically just put the batteries in, put it in the room that you want to test the humidity level in, and then within seconds it will tell you what the humidity is. So a really easy way to check. And I've recommended this to many patients over the course of time where there's suspicion about maybe mold exposure, mold illness, things like that. And I'll talk to them and say, is there any room in your house damp or whatnot? Like, no, everything's fine, everything's good. And not every time, but a significant number of times I say, can you please just buy a hygrometer? Let's just double check. They'll come back and say, my basement's at 70% humidity. I had no idea. It's like, how would you know? I don't know what the humidity, well, I know what the humidity is in my office because I can see my hygrometer. Well, I can't quite see it from here, but I have a hygrometer on my desk. Looks like about 37% humidity. It's looking pretty good today. But some folks have no idea whether a room is, unless it's really, really humid, like the walls are sweating, you can't really tell if it's humid or not. So buying a hygrometer is something that you can do to check the humidity. Now, of course, depending on the time of the year and where you live, like here in beautiful Nova Scotia, I don't bother, glancing over at my hygrometer or running my dehumidifiers in the winter months because it's very dry. Whereas in the summer months, it can get very, very humid. So, seasonality is certainly something that plays a role in whether it's worthwhile to look for a hygrometer. So maybe if you live in, I don't know, Alaska, I've never been to Alaska, it looks lovely, but maybe humidity is not a problem at all. And if you're in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, then I'm assuming that humidity is probably a factor to consider all the time. But getting a hygrometer is something that you can do to easily check for that humidity level. And by keeping that humidity level below 50%, something that can help to discourage the growth of mold. I think it's a really, really important thing to consider because in my experience, a lot of folks don't really pay attention to that humidity level, and it's something that over the course of time could potentially lead to mold overgrowth, and mold is really not very good for us. If you're not aware of the possible issues with mold illness, please check out some of my prior videos because I certainly talk about this, and other folks, other clinicians talk about it online as well.